everyone, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Jacob Elyachar Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Elyachar, the chief content producer and writer at JTWJE.com, a pop culture entertainment news website. If you're watching us on YouTube, please give us a 5-star rating, and please give us a thumbs up, and please subscribe. Now, if you're also listening to us on our audio platforms, please give us a 5-star rating. Download this episode and more episodes, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'm thrilled to welcome back the creator of the Saturday Night Network. As of this recording, he has over 20,200 Twitter followers, 42,600 YouTube subscribers. I'm one of them, and 47,100 Instagram followers. Please help me welcome Jon Schneider back to the podcast.
Wow, what an intro, Jacob. Every time I come on here, you continue to amaze me. So thank you so much for having me back.
You are so welcome, Jon. I am so grateful to have you here, and I'm a man of my word. I promised last time you were on here, after SNL 50 is done, I wanted to have you back after the 50th, after the entire season ended.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to talk about it. It's been a crazy year.
It has been a crazy year, but first, it's been several months since we last spoke, so how did you grow as a content creator between now and until our last conversation?
Well, it was a very big year for us in terms of growth as well. Certainly with the SNL 50 of it all, the anniversary special, there was a lot of extra eyeballs on the TV show. So that filtered a lot of content over to us. And, sometimes there's things that the show can't post that we end up posting. So it ends up bringing a lot of people to our stuff. But yeah, it was a huge year for growth for the podcast. And hopefully we'll be able to maintain that growth into season 51.
Absolutely. And I was so proud of you when I saw you guys, you and James Stevens, on the SNL 50th anniversary red carpet. Can you describe the moment when you heard that you were getting guys who were getting invited to be part of the press bracket for that entire one night only event?
Yeah, so I would say the conversations about being there probably started in season 48, maybe. Like, it was going back a long time that we were trying to figure out the logistics of how we were going to get there and if we were going to be invited, because never in the history of Saturday Night Live, the half a century history, has a podcast been invited to the actual show to do coverage. So the SNL and NBC, they are lovingly a little old fashioned. So to sort of get them to make that leap was a lot of hard work. Yeah, it was just a lot of conversations, a lot of hard work. At one point we were talking to them about the idea of having some sort of desk there where we would be doing some like pregame coverage the way that you see when you watch like football or basketball. Get a bunch of like analysts and former cast members to come on down. And ultimately, there's just so much going on at 30 Rock that weekend. They completely transformed the entire building. They had pop-ups going on all downstairs at the shops. And then they had a weekend update desk. So there was just like not the space to be able to do that. But they did I'm very thankful that they invited us to the concert that they did on Friday night at Radio City. So I was there for that. And then they invited us on the red carpet to do interviews before the 50th anniversary special. And they gave us probably the best spot on the carpet, which was really nice.
We'll talk about the best spot on the carpet, but you brought up that massive, iconic concert. It was probably one of the best. The concert to end all concerts, I got to say. I remember seeing Robin and the Talking Heads doing dancing on my own. It was just the Backstreet Boys sing Jerry Seinfeld loses cool for the Backstreet Boys, and then not to mention the Big 50, and then Sarah and Bowen accompanying B-52s on Love Shack.
Yeah, it was wild. Honestly, I walked in there to Radio City. It was like a giant cocktail party, basically. So you like outside, like as if you were like, I don't know, picture going to the movies, except no one's in the theater yet. So everyone's outside, like buying concessions and drinks, except it's all famous people. So I walked in and I felt like it was an out of body experience because I'm very used to seeing a lot of these people through my television screen and not in person. But I was walking around and literally it's like, oh, Tom Hanks is next to me. There's Seinfeld. There's Larry David. Like, it was just like, I'm walking through the crowd, trying to do my best to mingle. And then my seats were on the second level. So they actually had a section for media that they had invited along with like press people PR people that work for the NBC and people who are running the carpet. So like we were all in that general area. We had our own bar right outside, so you can go and get drinks. But Jacob, the vibe was really weird. I have to be honest. Like at the beginning of the night, it was just like they put a lot of people in there. Michael Che joked about how like everyone here is connected to SNL in some way, but like it didn't really feel very strong. Like people were playing and it was kind of awkward. And then Backstreet Boys came out, and I kid you not, like everyone let loose and was having a good time. And from that point forward, the last like 2.5 hours of the concert, it was wild in there. It was one of the best things I've ever experienced.
I guess that you also saw the Colts for the first time since 40,
Yeah,
and they delivered and Will Ferrell and Anna Gasteyer delivered a fiery set.
they still got it. I mean, they're just as talented as when they were on SNL. So for me, that was great. Bill Murray was fantastic as well. Ian Jimmy Fallon, like he opened the show, and I think it was like a little unfair that like the crowd probably wasn't ready for him, but I thought he did a good job. Like everyone did a fantastic job. Questlove, The Roots, like
Cher,
man,
I just forgot about Cher.
Cher was unreal. Post Malone performing with Nirvana, like that was, I would say that the two loudest moments at Radio City was the Backstreet Boys and Post Malone and Nirvana. Like I could not hear. Like it was that loud.
Oh wow, 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 wow. Let's get talk about the carpet because I was you got some legends on the carpet, not just people who've been on the brand before on your network before, but I'm talking about brands like legends, legendary day one cast members were came to you. Seeing Chevy Chase and his wife next to you was just unreal. Plus, and you also have the current day people as well.
It was crazy, honestly. So when I got there, because I've done a couple carpets before, I've done press at Dress for Laughs. We did some conventions before, but so we had a little bit of experience, and I'm very used to going up to a publicist and just saying like I guess at some smaller events, publicists will be walking with the talent and they will bring them over to you. You don't necessarily get to like pick and choose who you talk to. So I was very proactive and I went to the publicist in advance and I said like if these people come by, like please bring them over. But there was so many people that the publicists were not really running like the carpet unless you were like super famous. So people like Amy Poehler or like Tina Fey, Seth Meyers, like Kristen Wiig, like they were all like basically like ran past me because they were being like filtered into the studio. But the ones who had like less to do with the actual show itself or only had small parts had time to walk the carpet, and they were pretty much walking. They did walk with a publicist, but they weren't really like involved as much. So basically I could call over anybody I wanted to just say like, hey, Jerry, can I have a minute with you? So the only thing I would say that they were really involved in is like I would get a tap on my shoulder, which you probably couldn't see on camera, like after like a minute saying like, they gotta go. But we totally thought we were going to get to talk to like random cast members from like the 80s or the 90s. And we got to talk to people who I never thought I would ever get a chance to speak to in my life. And it ultimately had to do with like where they put us on the carpet, because they put us right at the end before people walk into the studio. So we were the last stop, except for maybe the Today Show, which was filming right next to us. And so like we had a prime position. We were able to basically grab whoever we want. And I didn't even realize we were going to be on TV. Like if you were watching the NBC feed, you can see us doing interviews during the whole thing. It was crazy.
That night must have been insane. What were some of, I know that there are a lot of them, but like, could you name at least the top 10?
The top 10 people we spoke to?
Yeah.
I would say, well, I could only talk like personally, like who I was very excited to speak to. Will Forte, I haven't spoken to in a long time. He's my favorite cast member of all time, but I met him a few years ago, but it was just great to like get him over again. Trying to think who was my other favorites that I spoke to. I'd have to take a look at the list again. But I'd say, Tom Hanks was really nice. Oh, Adam Sandler was super nice as well. He was very complimentary of the interview. Jimmy Fallon, I like vibed with really well. Like him and I were having a great conversation, and I felt like we could have talked for like an hour. We were just very like having a good time with. Chris Parnell was really cool. Get to hang out with. Trying to think who else. Nora Dunn was really nice. Getting to talk to her. Lorraine Newman. That was really cool. Did talk to Chevy and Lorraine. Um, yeah. Oh, John Mulaney I spoke to a little bit, but we didn't get to do that one on camera. I had a great conversation with Larry David. We also didn't get to film that one, but Larry David walked by and I said, Larry, can I have a minute with you? And he looked at me and he was like, eh. And he kept walking. I said, like, that was better than an interview. So yeah, there were some great moments, honestly.
And yeah, and what were your thoughts on that entire show? I gotta say, I was so surprised when Paul Simon and Sabrina Carpenter together opened that show.
I was surprised as well. I mean, nothing against Paul Simon or Sabrina, but I just would have definitely started the show a different way. Like, I felt like it was a little bit of like a slow start, whereas like Jimmy Fallon and Justin Timberlake, when they opened up the 40th, they were like, they got the party started. So wasn't my favorite opening to the show, but the show itself was just unbelievable. Like, just so cool. I love that they pivoted. Like, everyone assumed that this was going to be like a lot of montages and a lot of like look backs at the series, but it ended up being more like an all-star game where you got the greatest performers from SNL history to come out and perform in new sketches. And a lot of the sketches were written by and were performed from the era that I grew up with the show, that I really loved the show. So it was like getting extra versions of sketches that I loved, your Bronx Beats and your Scared Straights and like all of those. So it was just it was an unbelievable night.
That Scared Straight with Eddie Murphy and Keenan. Holy guacamole.
Yeah, to me, I've been saying, like, I think that's the moment that people are going to remember for years to come. Like, that's the thing that's like, if you think about where we were 10 years ago after the 40th, like, everyone thought that Eddie Murphy basically killed his SNL legacy, because, he he was so important to the show and clearly disliked the show, and then for whatever reason shows up at the 40th and then like has a conversation with the audience for like 30 seconds, and it is like the weirdest, biggest downer. And then since then he's come back and hosted an amazing episode, and then came back at the 50th and just like crushed, was the MVP, got to perform with another of the greatest cast members of all time. So for me, I thought it was just a amazing thing to witness.
And probably one of the biggest surprises of the night was Meryl Streep with Kristen Wiig with her constant with that character. No, Kate,
Yeah,
Kate. I'm so sorry,
Kate.
Kate.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, with Kate. I also thought like that was really, really cool to get like a performer in there who's really never been on the show before to be there. But I would say personally, I would have rather seen another cast member from SNL history perform there. It's like I know why they did it, because it's the extra eyeballs and story of like Meryl Streep makes her first SNL appearance during the anniversary special. But like the show is really about like the history of the show that night, and I didn't love that personally.
I was surprised Debbie Downer was a big popular one, and I'm surprised they brought Rachel back.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. That's the one that I would have swapped out. I don't I love Rachel, and I'm a big defender of the original Debbie Downer, but there was no new ground there beyond like basically all the lines were the exact same lines that they've done for years, whereas the other sketches they at least like broke new ground with them.
I thought it'd be surprising to have Sapido Gigante because of its popularity and see what happened, be like a little bit wild card, or Fred Armisen's talk show where they have the dancers.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of ways you could have gone with this. I get that they wanted, Debbie Downer is a really popular casual character. Like, for people who haven't tuned into the show in a long time, they remember Debbie Downer. So I'm not surprised that they did it. It's just that I think that as far as like high quality sketch material, I think everything else beat it.
And I gotta say, at least Molly Shannon, Sally O'Malley, they would not. I've been so angry if they did not bring out Sally O'Malley, because
Yeah, she's 50.
She's 50, and SNL was turning 50. So thank goodness Sally O'Malley was there.
Yeah, that was very cool.
Alrighty, so this season made a lot of headlines, and one headline in particular that I would like to talk to you about is the All-Star celebration of Martin Short finally getting his due after so many years supporting the show. And he was being inducted into the iconic Five Timers Club that featured an all-star list of Tom Hanks, Tina Fey, Paul Rudd, John Mulaney, Jimmy Fallon, Alec Baldwin, Scarlett Johansson, and Melissa McCartney. So Out of all the five-time club celebrations, why did this one stand out?
I just think, the magic of the show has always been for me, especially at those Christmas episodes, that you never know who's going to pop up. Typically, when it is a Christmas episode, most TV and film productions are done for the year. So most people are available, which means like the gift box of like who's going to be at SNL this weekend is it's just magical. Like you never know. And I think that it's really cool. A lot of people who are, when they first fall in love with the show, they may be like away at college or, you know, at, staying home, I guess now that it's like in the middle of winter. So they come home to their families at Christmas and they're going to watch SNL. And like it ends up being one of the most viewed shows of the year and anyone could show up. So for me, I think the Christmas episode honestly ends up being like sometimes the best episode of the year. And for this one, for it to be Marty, who's been so crucial to the show because, he was a cast member for one season, but then he also came back and he hosted a bunch of episodes and he's like a great representation of sketch comedy in that time. For him to get celebrated like that was really fun. And then the fact that so many people showed up for that cold open was awesome to me. And it was like, to me, sort of the kickoff to the celebration of the 50th. We had like all of this politics stuff happening before that at the start of the year. And it felt like that overshadowed the 50th anniversary. But this felt like the first like real instance of the magic of the 50th.
I agree with that, and also it was also the same time that of that crazy viral moment that happened when Scarlett Johansson was watching Weekend Updates.
Yeah, that was really cool as well. I mean, just to see how far that Joseph and Shay are willing to go with the joke swap is always really exciting for me. So, yeah, it was a really good episode. I would say top 5 of the season, probably.
I totally agree. So we're going to go into a little bit of a controversial dividing territory because you made headlines after Morgan Wallen's controversial exit after the completion of the Mikey Madison, calling him to be SNL. So what went through your mind when you saw Morgan stomp off the stage, and were you surprised that your declaration of kicking him out permanently from SNL stirred a massive debate regarding the SNN community?
I'm not surprised it was a debate. I also don't ever expect everyone to agree with me. Like just because I'm hosting the podcast doesn't mean that I'm always right. So I'll preface my thoughts by saying that. But yeah, when I was watching it, I was just like, that was so weird. And then I sat on it and I always go live after every show. So for me, I was like thinking about it during the show about what I wanted to say. And then I just went back to conversations that I've had when I've been at the show. Very fortunate to like be backstage a couple of times during episodes, talking to cast members. And some of the things, like without giving away, anyone in particular, some of the things that I've been told is like the appreciation some of the cast members have for not necessarily me, but us as a community to be able to speak to the things that they can't speak to. Because like it is a corporate environment. They don't have like the media accessibility that like a professional athlete would. So sometimes like they don't always get to express their thoughts without getting in serious trouble or getting shut down. And I felt in that moment that like the perception is that Morgan was disrespecting the show because he was sort of like, F this, I don't want to be here, I'm leaving. And I think under like different circumstances, the cast members would come out after the show and say like what Morgan did was really rude and disrespectful. So, when you watch the show, and I've watched the entire series twice, I've seen every episode. I've probably seen episodes like 10 times. Like I know the show inside and out. It is very rare when somebody ever does anything like this. So to me, this was like Morgan Wallen making a statement. And I already had that opinion. And then we were live during the show. And I got a text from our producers with the Instagram story that he posted with the private jet saying, "Get me to God's country." So even if I was hesitating to say something, at that point, I was like, okay, clearly he did this on purpose. Like, clearly he was like, let me get the F out of here. So naturally, if you're like that, then you're trying to say something, which is that you don't like this show and you don't want to be there anymore. So if somebody doesn't want to be there, then why would we ever want him back? Like, it's one thing to have like controversial hosts who, not everyone agrees with their policy because it brings eyeballs. It's another if like they're directly disrespecting the institution of SNL. And I know not everyone takes it as seriously as I do. I love this show. I think it's like holy ground over there, but not everybody feels that way. But for me, like I felt it was really messed up what he did. And I felt like I felt compelled to say something.
And I agree with you because there are some hosts that have had some sorry to be rough here, anti-Semitic views, and I don't like about that. And also there's at the same time for me, I disagreed with you on that. And I admit that I was one of the people in the Instagram thing that said I will respectfully disagree with you because the reason why I thought that is because we don't when someone like a Morgan Wallen comes in, you don't have a lot of people from red states coming into SNL because a lot of people have seen that as could be a little bit biased to the coast that are a little, to be honest, and we all both know this, have a little more of a liberal bias. So when you have people like a Morgan Wallen come in and people want to see him perform that are in states like Alabama or Texas like that, and yes, that's the only time you might get them. So that might to have him there is great. And yes, he has a controversial side. Yes, he makes great music and everything. It's like you're gonna have to do the compare the art to the artist. We have to remove that eventually. We're gonna have that conversation. But I
Yeah.
think what I thought about that is like, yes, I think that he made a mistake and like more, but like the same time is if we deprive him of more, if we deprive someone of Morgan, we're gonna have people go on Fox News and all heavyweight red media and say this is the reason why, and they're paying into the game. So that's why I kind of wanted Morgan here.
Yeah, but that's a characterization of what I was saying, which is not to say that Jacob that you were saying that. But what I'm saying is like I know because I saw the reaction to what I was saying that naturally everyone jumps into this as like a Democrat Republican thing or like a liberal conservative thing, and it wasn't. Like I was never saying that Morgan Wallen shouldn't be at SNL because he's like loves Trump. Like I wasn't saying that. Like I don't personally like I don't care about that. Like I never spoke about my politics. I never spoke about his politics. All I spoke about was the institution of SNL. If like Robert De Niro, who's as left as it gets, did the same thing, I would have said the same thing. Like it really didn't matter to me. It was more about the action than it was anything else. And like there's all this other stuff about was he really did he want to be in a pre-tape that week and he sort of backed out and they ended up having Joe Jonas. So like there's a lot of things that I think like they weren't happy with. And on top of all of that, Jacob, is like I was covering the show in season 46 when he was a musical guest. And he was booked and then made out with some girl at a bar and they had to cancel his booking and they booked him again. And they did it as like a, hey, like, we don't agree with what you just did, but out of like excitement for having you on the show, we're going to have you back a couple months later. So like SNL already mea culpa'd with Morgan Wallen. And they even booked him again after that. And he still did this. So, like, I think it's just enough chances for this one guy who makes, personally, I like country music. I like a lot of Morgan songs. Like, I don't have a problem with him as an artist. I have a problem with him and what he did on Saturday Night Live. And that is it. No politics, just what he did to the show. But it's really hard to parse that out when you're just putting up like a 3-minute clip of your thoughts.
I definitely agree. And besides, it's been unfortunately I fell and I admit I fell into that trap of politics and everything with performing because I love Morgan's music and he is probably probably one of the gifted performers of our generation when it comes to country music. And yeah, I've been trying to get him on on this podcast, and I admit that I've been trying to get him on this podcast. And I admit that I've been right. I have had a conversation with his team, and anytime I review music, I review it. So that's the reason why that got hot, and I apologize if that caused anything.
Don't apologize. You're good. It's totally fine. And you know what? I would have a conversation with Morgan too. Like it's not like again, it's not about him as a person. It's just about like first of all, like does he owe everyone an explanation for what happened? Like I don't know because again, like the show doesn't do media in the way that I think that they always should. Like I do believe that there should be reporters that are there that get to talk to the cast after and ask them questions about the show. I believe that the host should have to talk to the media after the show. Like, those are things that I think are good for the show, and they don't do that. So as a result, like, Morgan gets to like fly off in his jet and no one ever gets to hear from him again or his thoughts on SNL, and he'll probably never address the situation. But like, look, there's not a lot of people out there that puts their face and their voice out there every single week with their thoughts on the show and has thousands of people listening to them and has the responsibility to tell it like it is. And I felt like in that moment, I had to do that. So, there's a lot of people who are supportive of, politics that Morgan is supportive of, and felt like I was anti them. And like, if they want to feel that way, that's totally fine. I don't like, even though SNL could be political sometimes, I definitely don't make our coverage of SNL political. I stay clear of that. I'm very about like talking about the show because I believe that Saturday Night Live should be for everybody, regardless of whether you are on the right or on the left or whatever you feel. I am a 100% feel like this show, for it to survive, needs to be for everybody. So we need to stop making this about hey, we're against Morgan Wallen, so this isn't, the show isn't for you, because that's not what this was.
I totally agree that the show needs to be, that SNL, it should be and for everybody, and I still agree that the show should be everybody. My dad and I have different views at times. But however, the thing that we get to talk about is we always talk about the time that we saw we always talk about the time we saw the Al Sharpton Casa de Sushi sketch. We always make sure that we talk about Sally O'Malley and the Colts and Eddie Murphy, and like, that's what bonds us. And I think you hit the nail right ahead. I hope and pray that in the future SNL has a post game conference like they do with the baseball and football games.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it needs to be everybody. Like, I don't think every single cast member has to sit in front of a podium every week. But I believe, and I've said this to NBC. I said I think that there should be one or two cast members there to talk about the week. And then the answer is, well, with the process and the system, they're always exhausted at the end of the week. And I get that. Like, Lauren's had the same process since the show started. So I'm not surprised that they are exhausted at the end of the week and want to just go have a party. But I just think that, like, there are certain things that I think SNL will need to do in the next few years to stay relevant. And one of them is being accessible to the media. It doesn't have to be directly to the fans, because there's a lot of fans, but there is some sort of bridge that has to develop, which we are trying to do at the SNN. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that, between the show and the fans, where there is this other rail there that they can talk to and disseminate information from. And that's my goal.
And you guys have done a fabulous job, and I totally agree with you about SNL's future. And we'll get to that conversation near the end of our conversation. But we got to wrap up about your favorite sketches of the season and why they stand out.
Well, we talked about a couple. I mean, I think that the Five Timers Club cold open was one of my favorite sketches of the season. Just getting to see everybody. I would say probably, I think Jack Black's monologue was really good. If we're gonna go monologue for a second, just his impact returning after 20 years and then showing that he still got it. That was really exciting. I love getting the digital shorts in there with Andy Samberg being back. I grew up on the digital shorts and it had such a huge influence on my life. So to have Here I Go and then Sushi Glory Hole there at the beginning of the year, that was super exciting. I would say that there was a couple of ones that I think in the second half of the season that really stood out to me. One was Dave Chappelle's evacuation alert with the LA wildfires, and then him having to leave and then exposing his other family and all of that stuff. That one was really good. And then the other one was Lady Gaga's episode. She did like a rideable luggage long goodbye sketch, which was sort of like this mini epic that occurred all around the studio. That one was really exciting. I thought the White POTUS, the pre-tape that they did, which was a mix between the White Lotus and politics at the time, was a really brilliant pre-tape. So there was a lot of good stuff to pick from this year, Jacob.
I totally agree. There were some really good ones. I gotta say, kudos to Maya Rudolph for doing his Kamala Harris, and not to mention, I gotta say this: the Trump in the breaking the fourth wall, it was just insane. And when Lin-Manuel Miranda was there and James Holt did his best to break him, that was hysterical.
Yeah, that was really good.
Alrighty, so we got to talk about, now we're done with the 50th. We got to talk to you about your interview series, because you've had the opportunity to welcome several SNL icons tell their stories, and I would like to talk to you about like 4 of them with you, because their stories are phenomenal.
Thank you.
Let's start with Mary Ellen Matthews. She's the resident photographer. She has seen so much action in that studio.
Yeah, she's really nice. She just released a book, so we wanted to get a chance to promote that because we knew that, there's a lot of our listeners who would want to put that on their coffee tables. So it was great to get to talk to her and hear some of the stories. It's just an interesting perspective, right? Because we always hear what hosts or musical guests or cast members are like, performing the sketches, but not when they let their like guard down and they're doing photos throughout the week. So I thought that was a really interesting conversation because we end up hearing, what they are like and what their teams want from them before the actual sketches happen. And that was great. And then I pitched her a couple things too. I was like telling her, like, I think we need new photos of every cast member every season, like stuff like that. So it was a good opportunity for me to get some of my thoughts in there.
And speaking of thoughts, he got a huge surprise on the SNL 50 red carpet when Joe Piscopo said he wanted to come on the show. And
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know, Joe Piscopo was on the show from 1980, 1984, one of the most key figures outside of Eddie Murphy from that time.
Yeah. And for people who think that I, lean one way politically, I was perfectly happy to have Joe Piscopo on the show. We talked politics a little bit too, so it was fine. Like, I was so curious that was what I was excited for Jacob, honestly, is because for me, who like the show is like clearly very liberal, but he is conservative and he gets to meet with Trump and he gets to talk to him. And I was like, how do you reconcile these two things? Like, you are a representative of Saturday Night Live, which is seen as like the most liberal Trump hating show, and you're also buddies with Trump. And I wanted to know like how he does that. And he gave some like great conversations about his time at the 50th, getting to talk to Tom Hanks and Robert De Niro and how everyone just like sort of loves each other. And I thought it was like a really great conversation. I know there's a lot of people who love SNL that like probably wouldn't have wanted me to talk to Joe Piscopo, but like, I don't care. I'll talk to unless you are a hateful person, I will talk to you. So like, there are some SNL cast members from SNL past who I probably wouldn't have on the show at this point, but I don't think Joe Piscopo is among them. Like, just because he is a conservative radio talk show host doesn't mean that I wouldn't talk to him.
And totally, like same with me. Like, I'll put politics aside to talk to somebody about that. And that episode was perfect because Joe Piscopo was one of the performers that helped save SNL during the 80s.
Yeah, and he just doesn't get a shine, right? Because everything's all about Eddie, well deserved. But Joe was so integral to stabilizing a ton of those sketches. Like, I don't know what that era looks like without Joe Piscopo in it. So I wanted to give him his praise. And he was super nice on the carpet, and he really like made an effort to want to come on the show with us. So I was very appreciative of Joe.
Also, you had a one-timer, John Rudinsky, who was in from 2015, 2016.
Yeah, he's super hilarious. Very funny guy. I always tend to favor those one-hit wonder stories because if you're willing to talk about it, then you get some of the best juicy details of what really went on that season. We had a great conversation a few years ago with Aristotle Atari that was sort of like a therapy session where we were able to talk through like what happened that year behind the scenes, how he felt about everything. And it's such a roller coaster of like, these people, their entire lives change when they get the call from Lorne Michaels saying you're about to be an SNL cast member, and they're going up the roller coaster about to head to stardom, thinking about all the possibilities of them becoming some of the biggest stars in the world and these A-list moving stars. And somewhere down the line, something went wrong and they just fell back down to the ground. And those stories to me are always really interesting of like, why did that happen? How did you recover? What are you doing now? And I think John was like super vulnerable, talked about some things he said he never talked about before. So that was awesome.
Then you go from one term to someone that has been a huge part of your SNL journey, Mr. Fred Armisen, who is from 2002 to 2013. So what was it like when said Fred and his team said, we'll do it? And you describe the recording process of that? Because I think because how much you have for that era of SNL, I think you've been jumping out of your skin.
Oh, I was totally. I mean, we've been trying to get Fred on for about a year, and he said right away that he would do it, but he just like never had the time. He's super busy, especially since he is no longer the band leader or involved in the band at Seth's show. He's been really booked, touring, doing a bunch of filming some projects. So we bumped into him at the 50th. I think I interviewed him on the carpet for a few minutes, but at least I remember talking to him at 30 Rock when James and I were walking around. And he's like, I know I've been trying to come on with you guys and I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to make it happen. And then we spoke to him again after the 50th, and he was very excited about it. And he said he would do it. And I was like you said, jumping under my skin, because during the interview, we were still in the middle of the SNL season. So for me, I was sort of just trying to be really pragmatic about moving forward with the things that I have to do every day. But when I finished recording and hung up with Fred, I was like, that was the coolest thing ever. If I would just have a conversation with my younger self and say, you just spoke to Fred Armisen for an hour and a half and just got to ask him anything you want. I would have been really excited about that. I remember going to Just for Laughs, probably 2017, 2018, and I brought my girlfriend, and Fred did this thing where he goes up with a bunch of instruments. And I said to her, I was like, you may not get this. This is just Fred has a very unique style of humor, and you may be sitting there and being like, what the hell is this the whole time? But I promise you, this is for me. This will only work because I know Fred. And it was just a very fulfilling full circle moment to get somebody on from the era that I really fell in love with the show for.
All righty, and and I'm glad you had that moment. That meant the world. That must have meant the world to you. And I bet you have a couple other people that you'd be jumping out of your skin if they said yes.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. We're working on Will Forte, which, like I said, is my favorite cast member of all time. So hoping to make that happen at some point soon. There's a lot of cast members. I mean, I'd love to have on. There's a lot of people who say that they'll do it, and then their teams end up being super busy. So, I mean, you know what it's like. So for us, we're just going with the motions. I think what's cool about what we built at the SNN is that when I start an SNL season, I genuinely don't know what the roadmap looks like. I know we're going to do coverage every week, but things are going to pop up in the SNL world, and we'll get to talk about them, and we will get to speak to people. And if you would have told me a year ago, hey, you're going to get to interview Fred Armisen or, Joe Piscopo or stuff like that, I would have been like, oh, wow, this is a really cool, this is the season where we did that. That is really cool. And I'm always really excited to see what's going to happen next. So we're definitely have, a few calls out there for people that we want to bring on the show, and hopefully some materialize.
And speaking of returns, one of my favorite video series they do, Everything You Need to Know About SNL, is finally coming back. And I'm so delighted because that video brought me to you guys. And I am so excited to see what your takes are as for next seasons.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I think we probably overshot ourselves a little bit when we first were doing it. The initial conception of this was, let's try and, because before the 40th, I had watched the entire series, and it sort of led me up to that. And I was trying to maybe provide the same experience for people before the 50th. So we were talking about releasing these 50 episodes. And when we released seasons 1, 2, 3, they were about 10 to 12 minutes about every season. And we didn't realize how much people would like them. So when we started doing that, and we realized in the comments, oh, you didn't mention this. Oh, you didn't mention that. So then we were we took a step back, and we were okay, well, if we're going to do this, maybe we just fully do it. So we started producing them, and let's mention all of the things we actually think people should know in case they can't watch an episode of SNL. So they ended up coming out to 20, 25 minutes, half an hour, and they took a lot longer to produce. And we were able to get 20 of them out before the 50th. And then we sort of said to ourselves, well, let's give ourselves a little bit of a hiatus. There's plenty of TV shows that end in May and come back in September. They take a break. Let's take a break, wait until after the season, and we'll work on these for the next few months so that we can release these more regularly. And that is the plan for this summer.
I cannot wait to devour them. And I really hope that if you haven't addressed this yet, still one of my all-time favorite moments is Barbara Streisand's surprise appearance on the Coffee Talk set with Mike Myers, Roseanne, and Madonna. I cannot wait to see how you guys do that.
So that, I think, is actually, we already did that. That one, I think, is in season 18. I'm pretty sure.
I have to rewatch that because that's still
Yeah.
one of my all-time favorite celebrity crashing the set and everyone lose their mind moments.
Yeah, that's a great moment. What we're gonna get into on these is like Will Ferrell's years. So it's a really good cast. It's what I call or what we affectionately call it, the recurring character era. So they go into, like they will develop new characters, and you get them every week, and
We get
that's the thing.
like Mango, Sally, O'Malley,
Yeah,
the cheerleaders, the Colts.
yeah, and for better or for worse, that's what these few years are about, like pre 9/11, like
Oh,
when the
and Mary
show.
Catherine Gallagher. I forgot Mary Catherine
Yeah,
Gallagher.
that's a huge one. I mean, there's so many Celebrity Jeopardy you're gonna see. Like, there's a lot of
My
ones that are.
favorite sketch of all time.
Yeah, there's a lot of really epic sketches that get started here. Some people don't love the era as much though, because it's less, fresh. Like, you watch an episode, it's basically the week before, but with the new host, because they're always like putting in, like, some episodes in this era are entirely recurring sketches. And that is really important to convey when we're doing these episodes, so people understand what they're looking at. There's still a ton of fun moments. It's really nostalgic for a lot of people if they've watched the series up until this point. They get to see some old favorites pop up. So these next few years are going to be really exciting, as we sort of build towards what I view as the third golden era. So we're not there yet. We're in, this Will Ferrell dominant era. There's some other amazing cast members that are here, but we're
Anna
gonna.
Gasteyer, Chris Kattan, Molly Shannon. As
Yeah.
you can tell, that was my era.
Yes, exactly. So I'm really excited for
Daryl
you to see
Hammond.
them. Exactly. I'm excited for you to see them over the next 10 seasons as we start, like I said, we'll see the rise and the fall of this era, and then we will build towards my era eventually too. So it'll be exciting.
I'm exciting. Speaking of exciting news, as you know, over the summer there was a earlier Entertainment Weekly article that said SNL is expecting change, the usual changes. So do you, not to decimate things in this, and guys, we are not affiliated with NBC. We are not affiliated with SNL. We don't have anyone back doing our thing. So there's been hints, like dropping hits, like saying this is Shay and Joe. That was Shay and Joe's last weekend update. There were things about is Keenan broke a record? Is his record going to continue? Who's good? And then of course we had that conversation on our initial one about the Lauren conversation, which has been dialed down. So do you think we're going to have more news breaking or no?
I think we will have news breaking. I cannot tell you right now what it is. I think we're in a sort of like a news freeze right now, where I don't think anything's going to pop out until about towards the end of July, beginning of August. That's typically when contracts for SNL start to get renewed, and you hear things start to leak. We will be live on the SNN every Monday night. We're going to be doing this countdown series of the greatest 50 episodes of all time. So typically when news breaks, we will go live on Mondays and talk about everything throughout the summer. I mean, if there's something really big that pops out, we'll obviously go live right away. But yeah, I would say that there's going to be changes. It's going to be exciting. We just don't know what they are right now. So we have to hold our breath for a little bit longer.
And I cannot wait to see how you guys break down these breaking news. So, John, as always, this is the last question. Are you ready?
Sure. Let's do it.
Where can my audience find Saturday Night Network? And where can they connect with you on social media?
So you can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Search the Saturday Night Network. We are there. We have coverage during the season of episodes 3 times a week. So you can catch us right after an episode airs. Come hop on YouTube and pop into the hot take shows that we have. We have Monday night roundtables, and we also have an analytics portion of our coverage where we talk about the data of SNL every Wednesday night on our By the Numbers shows. So those are always really fun. We have a Patreon as well for extra perks if you're interested in diving in with us over there, where we do an extra show each and every week, talking about the SNL sketch breakdown. So we do like a game footage, and we stop and we pause and we talk about every sketch that the listeners choose. We do a feedback show where we allow people to call in and talk to us on the SNN once a month. So those are really exciting. Right now, our patrons can sign up for our greatest episodes countdown. So if people want to pop in over there, they could do that as well. So a lot of great stuff happening over there. So make sure to subscribe, YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And you can find us on social platforms at the SNL Network, where we always post infographics about Saturday Night Live and other fun things that we're doing over there.
And guys, how you miss an episode of the Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar podcast? Is our channels on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Spreaker. Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar, JACOB Now, are you on social media? I'm on social media too. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and YouTube. Jacob Elyachar, JACOB And for more SNL fun and my original interview with Jon, head to jake-take.com. Once again, jake-take.com. And I'm so excited to reveal that Jake's Take with Jacob Elyachar is an American Business Award winning podcast. Thank you so much to the entire judges who voted for an American Business Award. I really appreciate it. And thank you all very much for following me on my journey so far. Jon, as always, it is a pleasure talking with you. And we got to do this after the first half of 51. So that way we could talk about more of that. And if there's any breaking news, I would love to have you back on again to talk about that. Like any big videos will always have a place at my podcast.
Thanks, Jacob. Reach out anytime. Always happy to come on here.
All right, and guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, have a great one, everybody. Goodbye.